This is Tim Jones, internationally acclaimed historian and author of 5 treatises about American history, only 3 of which required substantial plagiarism to complete. Welcome to this very special edition of View from the Bleachers. In this week's episode, I have hired 2 renowned American actors, and together they will reenact a heretofore, never-before-seen collection of correspondence between 2 heroic British generals who served nobly during the American Revolutionary War. And I'm talking specifically about General John Burgoyne and General William Howe. And yes, they are actual historical figures. Here are official portraits of these 2 famous British generals. That's General Burgoyne at left, and on the right is General William Howe. This video will present an incredible sampling of letters describing in surprising detail and candor their discussion of strategy to defeat the rebellious American colonials at the Battle of Saratoga in the fall of 1777. Now, while some naysayers may question the authenticity of these letters, the circumstances around the build-up to this historic battle, which played a pivotal role in the turning the tide of the Revolutionary War, are essentially true as presented. So relax, get comfortable, maybe microwave some of your favorite popcorn, and enjoy this powerful historical reenactment right after this short message from View from the Bleachers. To my esteemed comrade, General Howe, it has been a long and arduous passage from our wilderness encampment in the Canadian territory, but it is with great pride that I inform you of the news of our brilliant victory over those scoundrel rebels of New York Colony. As the King's brave young soldiers clashed with those ruffians and overwhelmed their defenses at Fort Ticonderoga. And as the sun sets, the colors of His Majesty King George's Kingdom of Great Britain wave proudly against the smoke-filled skies. I remain confident our plan to join forces, yours from the south and mine from the north, on the fertile plains of Saratoga will cut off those groggy, ill-mannered hooligan colonials from their New England brethren, thus ensuring for the 2 of us the highest honor. Perhaps a knighthood shall be in order, old chum. Long live our king, General John Burgoyne. P.S. My faithful wife, Catherine, the Duchess of Strathmore, enjoyed your jovial demeanor at our last encounter.
To my noble servant of our king, my esteemed General Burgoyne, it has been nigh unto a fortnight since your correspondence informing me of your glorious victory over those vulgar plowboys of New York Colony. Alas, I am still tethered to our encampment here along the banks of the Delaware, betwixt the shores of Philadelphia and Camden, seeking provisions and reinforcements. As soon as they arrive, it will be with the swiftest alacrity that I shall decamp and reconnoiter my forces to rendezvous with your fine men on the fields of Saratoga. Yours, in service of our king, General William Howe. P.S. That is kind of the fair Duchess Catherine to ask. Pass on to your lovely wife, I am solid of spirits, except for an odd rash of late. Do say, will the fair Duchess's carriage be following you south with each undoubted triumph?
My dearest comrade, General Howe, I received word today of the delay of your force's progress towards our sparsely furnished bivouac, which I have gone to great pains to secure on the hills just south of Saratoga, not more than a modest horseman's ride from Albany City. I look forward with bated breath for your updated arrival status. Perhaps I failed to mention in my most recent missive, but it now appears my original estimate of rebel forces numbering in the hundreds was off by the slightest of estimations, to wit, a decimal point's margin. It now seems that they may be amassing as many as 3,000 troops, but these illiterate farm boys will be no match for the 7,700 well-trained forces under my command, not to mention the 8,000 good fighting men our king has chosen to serve under your illustrious and brave leadership. I look forward to your arrival soon so that we can strategize as to how to bring this war to a swift conclusion. By the way, word has reached me that the wretched rebels are being led by a new general, some chap going by the name of George Washington. I hear that his biggest claim to fame involves the brutal annihilation of, wait for it, a cherry tree. I confess I enjoyed a hearty guffaw at the thought of this unfledged tree cutter at the helm of this boorish legion of misfits. Your humble comrade in arms, General John Burgoyne. P.S. Regarding your inquiry into my wife's travel plans, you posit an interesting question, old chap. But oddly, yes, my dearest Catherine has insisted on being behind my every advancement south. I am unworthy of such unwavering support. Truth be told, in the past she nigh almost pushes me out onto the fields of battle half prepared. Strangely, she is also afflicted with a nasty rash. Such a coincidence, eh?
Dear General Burgoyne, please accept my humblest apologies for this tardiest of acknowledgments. 3,000 American troops, you say, my dear? My, that number far exceeds what I anticipated, I must say. As for my 8,000 battle-ready troops, I fear I may have failed to inform you that Pennsylvania is having a bumper crop of hops and barley this year. The almanac's prediction of a ghastly early frost means my men have been conscripted into the service of gathering as many bushels as possible for fear they will wilt. By the way, General Burgoyne, have I ever shared a rendering of my manor? See the enclosed limited edition of my estate in Philadelphia. Truest, I am to be as chagrined as thou about the delays in my joining your forces at Saratoga, but the renovations of the grand ballroom have taken longer than I would ever have conjectured. I trust you can appreciate the dilemma. Do say, is there any truth to the rumor that these colonial rascals have conscripted those bastard French fighters into service of their rebellion? If true, concern thyself not, as we both know the French proclivity for surrender at the mere mention of a bayonet, eh? Fear not, dear hero. 1,200 of my finest fighters will lay down their spades and make haste in your direction, and the rest shall follow in the glory march on Saratoga, just as soon as they have completed painting the interior of my summer mansion outside of Philadelphia. We surely shall celebrate the rebels' downfall. Why not meet at Saratoga's House of Stars and Bucks on King Street? Your most obliged and devoted compatriot, General William Howe. P.S. Perchance might your lovely wife, the fair Catherine, join us for a pumpkin spice latte? I understand it is to die for.
General Howe, you can imagine my dismay upon reading that your support looks to be laggardly at best. One takes to wonder if general is your rank, or it simply describes how you rank your priorities, such as in, generally, I like to be at war on time. You can ignore my previous report of 3,000 enemy combatants. The latest estimate has vaulted to 15,000, with more reinforcements en route from the western towns of Massachusetts Bay Colony. And as to those cowardly French, yes, they be here. Thousands have joined the forces with the colonial miscreants. They are like flies around the tails of your lazy cattle. And there is more bad news for my men. For reasons unfathomable, our intended receipt of cannonballs got rerouted to Cornwallis's troops in Baltimore. How in the devil's inferno did that happen? Good God, we aren't even scheduled to do battle in Baltimore until Q3 1778. Now look, fine sir, you'd better get your infantry, all 8,000 of them, and let's make that with their guns this time. And while we're at it, dispatch a galleon filled to the mast with cannonballs up to Saratoga post-haste. Otherwise, I soon shall be paddling up a creek of shite. Yours, General Burgoyne. P.S. A latte at Stars and Bucks? Are you serious? And no, my Duchess won't be joining us. Have you gone daft, man? Really?
My noble comrade, General Burgoyne, I am not sure I appreciate the tone of your recent communique, good sir. Our victory is inevitable. And when it is, what are we going to eat and drink if we've paid no mind to the care of the king's fields and barley for beer? Nay, let us not neglect the unsung heroes of the farm, lest you posit apples fall out of the trees on their own, or grapes ferment by themselves. What shall we say to the brave soldiers ere they have mightily defeated the Yanks, only to be told, ye have no beer? Fear a second revolution, I'd conjecture. As I wish I could be at your side in the moment of your impending triumph, alas, I will have to send you my sincerest regrets. My third quarter estimated taxes are woefully in arrears, and as you know, the king frets over his taxes. This year, owing to my Virginia plantation profits, it's going to be a knotty calculation, you know, with all my slaves as dependents and such. Oh, by the way, I'll share a bit of reconnaissance. Turns out this George Washington fellow is a bit of a bad arse after all. He appears to have a particular fondness for sneak attacks on Christmas night. Wish I could join you in your moment of glory, old chum. How? P.S. However did you enchant your fair Lady Catherine to follow you to the New World is a mystery that escapes me.
General rat bastard. Ta for attending to the care and feeding of the king's beer and leaving me out to starve, you cowardly tosser. Thanks to your no-show, our glorious triumph turned into a bloody rout. And here's a rather disagreeable data point. Those Frenchies can really bring it to battle, you contemptible prat. The entire battle was like shooting fish in a barrel. Care to wager a guess as to who the fish were in this metaphor, you daft wanker? Whilst you were furiously pencil-pushing your blasted tax returns, my men were dropping like flies on the blood-soaked acreage of Saratoga. So yesterday I had no recourse but to surrender, it being the only way to stop the carnage. Burgoyne. P.S. If you ever make it up this way, let me know so I can kick your damnable bloody arse, you son of a concubine. Speaking of which, on my return, I found a note from my Lady Catherine informing me she was off to visit her aunt in Philadelphia. I know of no such aunt. If I discover she be in repose with you, what I shall do shall make the Battle of Saratoga look like a game of cribbage, you rapacious scoundrel. General Howe, I trust this postcard will cheer your bloody heart. 'Tis I, surrendering to those low-life Americans. Wish you were here instead of me, you maggot. My wife hath filed papers for divorce, proclaiming she abideth not with losers. Adding to that insult, she called me, quote, less than half the man of General Howe. When I am set free from the bonds of my American prison, oh, pray you best that I never find you with my wife Catherine, lest your lifespan be measured to be more of a fleeting duration than a fruit fly. Your worst nightmare, Burgoyne. Amazing series of correspondence, don't you think? For those history buffs out there, here's the real story of the Battle of Saratoga. In the autumn of 1777, British General John Burgoyne led his 7,000 men down from Canada into upstate New York, where he was planning to rendezvous near Albany with another force under the leadership of General William Howe, who would be coming up from the south. The plan was to isolate the pesky New Englanders from the rest of the rebellious colonies. You know, sort of a divide and conquer, so to speak. Unfortunately, instead of coming to the support of Burgoyne, Howe, who had no love lost for his rival general, chose to remain in Philadelphia. Burgoyne had managed to recapture Fort Ticonderoga, but now he found himself low on supplies with winter approaching. Instead of retreating to Canada, he made an ill-fated decision to press on towards Albany for battle. Meanwhile, the Americans eventually mustered a force of 15,000 militia backed by reinforcements sent by General Washington. They overwhelmed Burgoyne's forces. In fact, British casualties outnumbered American deaths 2-1, compelling Burgoyne to surrender on October 17, 1777. This likely never would have happened had General Howe not blown off his colleagues' dire entreaties to come to his aid. Well, that's the view from the bleachers. I'm Tim Jones, and I want to thank you for watching, and also thank my fellow thespian, Jim Corbett, who played the part of General Howe for this extremely authentic reenactment. I've heard there's already a lot of Oscar buzz mentioning this piece as a favorite for Best Historical Documentary. Well, wish us luck, and bye for now.
Hey, Tim.
Huh?
That was a British accent you were attempting to do? Sounded more like the Swedish Muppet chap, if you ask me. I can't believe I turned down Ted Lasso for this. When am I going to get paid anyway? And don't think about paying me in Target gift cards again like last time.